It started with the creaking. At first, I thought it was the wind or maybe the old beams of the house settling. I lived in a quiet neighborhood in Oregon, a small two-story home passed down to me from my grandparents. Nothing fancy, just a cozy place surrounded by tall pine trees and silence. I worked from home, editing photos for a small magazine, which meant I spent most of my days in solitude. But lately, I'd been hearing something new. At night, the creaks above my ceiling became more frequent. I assumed it was a raccoon or maybe a squirrel that had found its way into the attic. The sound of scuttling and soft bumps echoed faintly through the vents, always at night. I made a mental note to check the attic on the weekend, but I was busy, and days slipped by. Then small things started going missing.
A spoon.
My favorite hoodie. An unopened pack of batteries. I chalked it up to absent-mindedness. Maybe I left them somewhere weird and forgot. Still, it felt strange. My house wasn't big. It wasn't easy to lose things in it. About 3 weeks in, I noticed the hallway closet light was on. I never used that closet. It mostly stored winter coats and a few boxes of my grandfather's old stuff. The light switch was inside the closet itself. I hesitated before reaching in and switching it off, a chill creeping down my spine as I closed the door. I remember checking the deadbolt on the front door 3 times that night. It wasn't until I heard humming that I knew something was seriously wrong. It was past midnight. I was in bed reading when the faint sound of a voice humming floated down from the ceiling. It was off-key and slow, like a lullaby. I froze. My ears strained to identify the sound. It lasted maybe 30 seconds and then stopped. I sat up all night, lights on, phone clutched in my hand. The next morning, I pulled down the attic ladder and climbed up, flashlight in hand. The attic was dusty, cobwebbed, and smelled of insulation. I scanned the space slowly. Nothing seemed out of place. I was about to head back down when my light caught something strange behind an old pile of boxes. I moved them aside and saw a thin, folded sleeping bag, a few wrappers, and an empty bottle of water. My heart dropped. Someone had been living up here. I backed down slowly, not wanting to make noise, hands shaking as I called the police. They searched the attic thoroughly and confirmed what I already knew. Someone had been staying there. There were more signs: food packaging, cigarette butts, even a small flashlight. They said the person was likely entering and exiting through the attic vent, which led to the back roof. There were scuff marks on the siding. They guessed he'd been coming and going at night while I slept. The officers didn't find anyone in the attic, but they believed the intruder had gotten spooked and left. I installed motion sensor lights, a security camera at the back, and changed all the locks. For a few weeks, I couldn't sleep without checking every room 3 times. Eventually, the sound stopped, and life felt normal again, until I saw the footage. It was around 2 a.m., and I was reviewing the security camera on my laptop just to reassure myself. The footage showed me leaving for groceries the day before. Then, 15 minutes later, a man dropped down from the attic vent, barefoot and thin. He crept to the back of the house, drank from my kitchen faucet, and disappeared out of frame. 20 minutes later, he returned, climbed back up the siding like he'd done it 100 times, and vanished into the attic. I stared at the screen for what felt like hours. He had been there even after I found the sleeping bag, even after the police checked. I called them again, showed them the footage, and this time they searched everything top to bottom. But he was gone. Completely. That night, I stayed at a friend's house. It took weeks before I could sleep soundly again. I never saw the man in person. Never heard him speak. But sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night, certain that I heard someone humming. That was just the beginning. Maggie, my childhood friend, called me 2 months later. She'd just moved into her late uncle's old farmhouse in Kansas. She was excited about having her own place, but something about her voice on the phone felt off. She said her cat, Pepper, kept staring at the ceiling in her bedroom. Every night, same spot, same blank stare. She thought it was mice. Then one night, she heard tapping from inside the wall. Not on it, inside it. She brushed it off, thinking it was a branch scraping the outside siding. But when she walked out the next morning, there wasn't a tree within 10 feet of that wall. Just prairie. A week later, she woke up to find her bedroom window open. The strange part was that it had a latch lock. From the inside, she swore she locked it. We laughed nervously about it on the phone, but deep down, neither of us thought it was funny. 3 days later, she called again. This time, her voice was a whisper. She said she saw a hand reach out of the attic vent in her hallway. Just the hand. Pale, thin fingers gripping the wood frame. When she turned on the light, it vanished. She called the sheriff. They searched, found signs that someone had been squatting in the space above her ceiling. Same story, wrappers, empty bottles, a torn sleeping bag. Whoever it was had been living directly above her room. She moved out 2 days later. I told myself these stories were isolated. Weird, but explainable. Maybe people were just unlucky, or maybe these squatters were more common than we realized. But then I met Derek, a coworker I shared lunch breaks with at a local cafe. He was quiet but friendly. One day, he told me his younger brother, Tyler, had been acting paranoid. Tyler swore he saw someone standing in the corner of his room at night. No one was ever there when Derek checked, but things kept going missing. Snacks, a flashlight, a pair of socks. Then one night, Tyler set up his phone to record. In the grainy footage, a figure emerged from the closet around 3 a.m. and stood over his bed for 20 minutes. Just watched him, then slipped back inside. Derek thought it was a prank until he saw it himself. Police were called. They found a loose panel in the back of the closet leading to a crawl space. The man living there had been hiding out for at least a month. No one knew how he got in. All of these stories started piling up. Different towns, different houses, but the same pattern. Someone, often thin, quiet, and never violent, was sneaking into homes and living inside unnoticed for weeks, even months. Always silent, always just out of reach. One of the most disturbing stories I heard came from a woman named Sharon in Maine. She had a guest room upstairs that no one used. She started noticing the bed was unmade some mornings. Thought she was losing her mind. Then she found cereal bowls in the sink that she didn't remember using. She lived alone. She finally installed a nanny cam in the hallway. That night, she watched a man in a torn hoodie slip out of the guest room, tiptoe into the kitchen, eat cereal, and watch TV on mute. Then, as if nothing happened, he crept back into the guest room and shut the door. Sharon left her house the next morning and never went back. All of these stories shared one thing in common. None of them ended in violence. But the thought of someone living just above your ceiling, watching, waiting, knowing your routines, it was enough to send chills through anyone. I still live in my little house in Oregon.